and effective pest control services. They service your home like it's their home, because when you have kids, you know what families want: a safe, pest-free home.
And by Golden Pond Assisted Living, honoring resident choice, dignity, and independence. Our health and wellness focus keeps residents active. Golden Pond, state-of-the-art senior housing and healthcare services.
You're watching HCAM TV, and for more Hopkinton, visit HCAM Ed.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Are we live?
Take it away.
We're live.
Is it 6?
All right.
Yep.
I call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkins Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom, pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Act of 2022. Upon this rule, will be participating remotely, and all other members of the Select Board are present for this meeting.
Not Muriel.
Muriel's remote.
Muriel's not here.
Muriel is, say again, please?
She's in Delaware, and she was gonna try to get in, but she didn't know if she was gonna make it.
Okay, so I saw that she was not planning on it, but,
Did you see that?
all right, so myself will be, I'll participate remotely as well as Dr. Kramer. And all of the members of the Select Board are present for this meeting in Town Hall, room 215-216 in person. At this time, I will ensure that the Select Board members participating remotely in here and can be heard. I guess you can all hear me. I do not see Muriel here yet. No. Board members, you can all hear me fine?
Yep.
Yes.
Public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in the meeting's agenda. The meeting is being recorded and all votes will be taken by roll call vote. I request a motion to enter into executive session.
So,
Massachusetts Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to collective bargaining relative to the DPW, police, fire, and library unions, because the open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. And 2, to approve the executive session meeting minutes of February 8, 2022, and to allow Norm Malo and Lane Lazarus to participate in the executive session. And then 4, to reconvene in open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
So moved.
second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Katie Bush?
Bush, yes.
Brent Headstone?
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Green?
Frania, yes.
I don't see Muriel here, so our common school is also a yes. So we will exit into executive session and reconvene at conclusion.
There he is.
I see Norman is here, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Before we begin, let us stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I don't have any sound. I can't hear anyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. So our first item on the agenda is the public forum. Please note that each person will have 2 minutes to speak at public forum. Please start by stating your name and address. Recognizing that there may be people at the meeting in person and participating remotely who would like to speak. We'll go to the room first. Is there anyone present in the meeting room who would like to speak at the public forum?
Yes.
Yes.
Ian Quick, I live at 143 Clinton Street here in Washington.
And my name's Kyle Bryan, 13 Ray Street, Washington.
Are you guys new to town?
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Thank you. This is great to have this limelight. I haven't been in limelight in a while. I'm here to represent the Hopkinton Lions Club and the Hopkinton Friends of Hopkinton. We are putting on an event on the 26th of March, and we're calling it the Family Fling, and we're at the Common from 10 to 2, and it's games.
Awesome.
On the Common. Scavenger hunt, cornhole, obstacle course, pool hoops, bubbles. We have about 9 different things.
So just fun.
Just fun, family fun
Family
things.
fun, yeah. Yep, and Dunkin' Donuts in town is donating coffee, hot chocolate, munchkins
Amen.
for everyone there. And,
Nice.
so we got good cooperation from our local vendor, Dunkin' Donuts.
Good. That's the 26th?
Yes.
What day of the week is that?
Saturday.
Saturday. And what are the times?
10 to 2.
10 to 2. So Saturday the 26th, 10 to 2 at the Common. Dunkin' Donuts will be providing coffee, hot chocolate donuts, and it's just a good time to come out and see some people with or without masks and
Lots of
kind
things for kids.
jump out of the pandemic.
Lots of things for kids.
That's awesome.
And I know Mr. Tedford will be sad that we do not have a dunk tank, unfortunately.
I only like the dunk tank if Catino goes in after me.
But the day is not lost because we do have pool, so.
Good.
If you care to participate.
I call those bracelets. That's awesome. So Mrs. Click and Patrick, you guys have been awesome. Long before I was on the board, but you guys have done a great job kind of keeping Hopkinton going and letting some of these families that maybe don't play sports, maybe don't run all in the same circles, from your bean dinners, hen and bean dinners, to family day, to everything. You guys, it's great to have people like you out there to kind of keep the fabric of the town together and to allow everybody to kind of meld and get to know each other. And it's great to have, I'm not going to say old timers out of respect to him. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, and we'd just like to thank the select board from day one. You guys have always been behind us and everything that we've wanted to do, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank
We
you
love
guys.
it.
I want to thank
Absolutely love it.
to bring the community together in a public place and just hang out. I think it's exactly what this community needs. So thank you for going through the effort putting this together.
Thank you.
We have one of these downstairs, but if the board would like one.
Sure.
Submit it to your official record.
Yeah, we'll put it in the minutes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
So is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Seeing none, I do not see any hands raised on the Zoom feature. So we shall motion one.
Good.
One consent agenda. The board will consider approving the consent agenda consisting of approval of the minutes of the March 1st, 2022 meeting. Accept the following donations to the library in memory of Arthur Gambon. $100 from Marilyn Sullivan, $100 from ACHC of Massachusetts, and $25 from Marie Burson. And then also to accept the donation of $35 to the library from J.B. Berger in memory of Jacqueline Murray. Would anyone like to carve anything out for separate discussion? Hearing none, I would request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any discussion?
Through the chair, I just want to thank all these people for their donations and let them know that they're very much appreciated.
Thank you. Very much appreciated the entire board. All right, we're going to roll call vote. Peter Bush?
Rita Bush, yes.
Brett Petson?
Ted Stone, yes.
Victor LaFreniere?
LaFreniere, yes.
Your final school is also a yes. Okay, next up is the pedestrian connectivity survey results. The board will hear from Gary Tremble, the planning board chair, on the results of the pedestrian connectivity survey. Gary, are you in the room?
Yes, he's here.
I am present.
Take it away, Gary.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. This is something that the planning board had embarked upon. We actually started it last year, and with, we had started the plan for it last year, and then I think just with the pandemic, it took a little bit more time to roll this out, but thought we got some really interesting results through this survey that were worth sharing with the select board and with the community via a number of different forums. And just want to preface that this was done. We actually started this before a lot of the discussion and debate came up about the Upper Charles Trail Committee. So we were fielding at the time when those discussions were going on, but that was not the intent of the survey. So I have some slides to share. And you can go to the next slide, but just a couple of quick basics on this. Our primary objective, in the past we've done sidewalk surveys, and we did those were focused on specific locations. In this situation, we didn't want to ask the community to identify specific streets or trail locations or whatnot. We wanted to understand their underlying preferences and needs, and then we can take those underlying needs and apply those to identify where we think might be the best places to invest. And yes, Mary.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Did everybody get this survey in town, or certain areas?
No, it was I'll get to that in a second, but it was a digital survey, so we had posted it via the typical media outlets and eHop and Hopkins Independent, and we had a number of clubs and committees send it out as well. So the goal with it, though, understand those preferences and needs with to support a project that the planning board is embarking upon, which is to build a broader pedestrian connectivity plan for the town. And we see it as an asset. People like to be outdoors. We have some great properties and locations. We have some great trails already, but how can we connect those in a cohesive way to really enable people to get outdoors more? And our hope is we're doing this all in preparation for some potential proposals for town meeting in 2023, and we want to make sure that we build a good base of information and data to build up that plan. It was a web-based survey. It is branched, which means that not everybody responded to the same number of questions. But in total, we had what we thought was a really good response rate. We had 368 responses, which gives us a good degree of statistical significance. You go to the next slide. So just a quick snapshot of the desired intent for how people would like to use sidewalks and trails. You'll see that almost all the respondents wanted to do some form of fitness, walking, or running, or recreation in some kind. 75% of them view this as an opportunity to travel to other neighborhoods or other friends' houses. 69% had some desire to travel to a business in some capacity. We'll get into details in this a little bit. 64% saw trails and sidewalks and bike lanes as a means of improving bicycling safety. And then 44% wanted to use sidewalks and trails specifically for traveling to school. Just one note on that is that not all the respondents have school-age children, so even though that was the lowest percentage, I wouldn't say that that's that there's less interest in that. It's just a smaller subset of people that have kids.
Mr. Trendell, as less than an avid cyclist myself, you're not allowed to ride a bicycle on a sidewalk, are you?
Legally, no, you are not.
But that question would be more geared towards the trails.
Trails, and then the actual bicycling questions we asked about bike lanes as an alternative. You can go to the next slide. So we asked some questions. How strongly do you agree with the following statements? I avoid exercising on major roads out of concern for my safety, and no surprise there, almost 90% of them agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. So I should clarify, the blue color, the dark blue is strongly agree, the light blue is agree, the gray is neutral, and then the shades of purple are do not agree. So people don't feel safe on major roads. We asked them if more sidewalks and trails in Hopkinton would improve their physical health. 85% of them believed that it would. We asked them if more trails and sidewalks would improve their physical health. 85% of them said they would. So overall, I think there's a lot of interest in this, and given all the focus in the pandemic on mental health and physical health for that matter, it seems like trails and sidewalks provide some good benefits to the community. If you go to the next slide. We also asked them about preferred surfaces, and this gets a little bit more interesting. And so we asked them what is their preferred surface for each of the following uses, with the dark green being highly preferred, the light green being preferred, it goes from, well, you can go from left to right, from high preferred to no preference to avoid to highly avoid. And you'll see here that, number one, that in general people prefer paved sidewalks and paths, most of all, across all categories. For the recreational folks, so those fitness walkers and runners, a very strong preference to be away from the road. So whether that be sorry, I misread this slide. Let me go back a step. The colors represent each of the different options. So dark green is paved sidewalk. The next green is paved path. The next green is a gravel cart path. The next green is single track, and then rural roads and main roads. I apologize. And then what we're representing here is the percentage of respondents that identified a high preference or a preference for that intended use. Does that make sense? So going back to those takeaways, if you look at those recreational runners, they like all surfaces that aren't on a road. It doesn't matter if it's a sidewalk, if it's a cart path, if it's a paved path, if it's single track, they don't really care. Traveling to neighbors and all the other uses, you start to see more preference for either a paved sidewalk or a paved path off the road. Any questions?
I think it's really interesting data, but no questions.
We go to the next slide. I'm just going to hit on a couple of these uses, of these specific uses. So if we look at those fitness walkers and runners, a couple of interesting things. One is that they, 2/3 of them anticipate or desire to be walking or running at least 3 to 4 days a week. So you have a very active subset, and this was 96% of our respondents, and they're out there using these trails and sidewalks 3 to 4 days a week. We asked them about the typical distance they travel, and you'll see that almost half of them are in that 2 to 4 mile range, some a little shorter, some a little longer. And then you'll see a little bit more resolution on their preferred path type or surface, but again, really as long as it's not on a road, they're okay with it. You can go to the next slide. Traveling to business, and realize that not everybody has a business in close proximity to walk to, but again, this was over a majority of the people that responded to the survey want to be able to walk to a business. The difference here is that much lower frequency. So again, almost 3/4 of them once per week, which, think about it, seems reasonable. It's maybe walking to go out to dinner or down to Muffin House or something like that. But what was interesting was that they're willing to travel fairly good distance, and that once per week, but 42% of them would travel more than a mile in order to walk to a business of some kind. You go to the next slide. Traveling to school, again, a little bit less frequency, but again, I think a pretty good resilience that a good majority of them would walk more than a mile to school. Supports that notion that even in this day and age, people do want to walk to school. My kids walk to school, but there's appears to be some desire for that, even though it may not be every day, but at least when the weather's nice or depending on the time of year. Go to the next slide. And cycling, a little mixed. We asked the question a little bit differently here because this was slightly different options, but you'll see some frequency and a couple times per week, once per week, 1 to 3 times per week, and distances of optimally for this group of 3 to 10 miles. Also note that this is the group that had the strongest preference for a paved path away from the road. The next slide, which should be my last. So we have some recommendations that and some next steps. The first is we really want to focus on trail loops that are 2 to 5 miles long, specifically for all those recreational runners. And I think this is interesting because we went into this project thinking that maybe we should consider a sidewalk down Wood Street to connect the Lake Whitehall area with downtown. And based on this result, wouldn't make much sense because it's too far of a distance to where people would use it. We're better off either completing or building out these shorter loops that people can use in varying distances and capacity. We do think it makes sense to invest in paved infrastructure, being sidewalks or paths that stem from downtown and around the schools. That's where we saw the strongest demand for pavement, and given the higher volume of usage, makes sense. Most of our downtown already has sidewalks, but there's potentially some pockets where it might make sense to build out a little bit more. Trails should have varied surface based on location and anticipated use. Again, people like a mix of trails. It's not all stone dust. It's not all pavement. There's a mix, and there's different preferences, but we have enough. There's enough usage that we shouldn't need to have all one or the other. We have a recommendation to identify 3 to 12 mile bike loops that are optimized to some capacity for safety and ride quality. And something that as a cyclist we've talked about some informally, but if we can help steer the cyclists towards roads or routes that are more manageable, and I think the other great thing about that is that as the DPW makes improvements to those roads, if we have designated routes, then sometimes they can tweak center lines and fog lines in a way that improves safety for cyclists. And then the last piece is improved safety features on highly traveled roads to improve visibility, both of oncoming cars and if it's trimmed back shrubs or whatnot, to give a little bit bigger shoulder for people. That's something else that we can do to help encourage more people to get outside. So next steps for us, we're in the process of doing a series of readouts with a number of different boards and committees. This is the last one that we have scheduled, and apologize that a few weeks ago I had a conflict that came up, so I couldn't make the originally scheduled time. The next steps for us are really to prioritize some focus areas, and our intent is to do this through a working group, bringing in people from the different committees with some big maps and start to draw out and see areas that we think would benefit from some improved trails and sidewalks. Once we have some recommendations there, we'd like to do a public input session to get the broader public input on these recommendations that we've put forward. And our hope is that from there we could develop some proposals for town meeting in 2023 with a pretty strong basis for why we're doing it. So I do want to just make sure to thank both Jay Moran and Dave Paul, who were instrumental in building out this survey and aggregating the data. And in general, I think it's encouraged a lot of conversations in town that I think will be useful across a number of different committees and projects as we move forward.
Thank you, Gary. Open this up to the board. Any questions?
I think it's a nice job. I looked over it at home, and I thought it was a very good job that you did.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating data and
A lot of information to go over, though.
And it echoes what I've heard around town. I was going to say too that there's really a mix of some people want paved versus stone dust. It's not really all one way or another, and your survey really demonstrates that and the nuance of it. So I think it's good work.
If I can through the chair, the other point I want to make too, though, is that we've had a lot of debate about stone dust or pavement. And the reality is that most of the community doesn't really, I mean, they don't really care that much. They just want more trails and sidewalks. So my encouragement is let's not let that derail the projects that we have, because there's really a strong demand for both.
Yeah, if you do a good base with gravel to begin with, then you can add on a pavement, versus.
And sorry if I may, just one point to make too, is that when we ask these questions, we did not ask them to consider cost of various surfaces. So there's not really a good way through a survey to try to, without getting really complex, to tease that out. So I think that's a worthwhile point that's worth making.
Good. So,
Gary, go ahead, Mr. Stetson.
So that was a great presentation, and it was succinct, it was to the point. Obviously, you guys did a lot of legwork. I appreciate when somebody comes up before the board and has their ducks in a row and presents it, not a spin, just straight facts. You did a great job, and I thank you very much. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Trimble, I want to also thank you. I think that was an excellent presentation. Obviously, a lot of work into it. I do have a question, though. I mean, I understand that the loops that we're looking for, but is the intention to be connecting each of those loops? So, from the Whitehall area, I can take various trails to make it in town on city streets.
Yeah, great question. And our interpretation of this is that we'd be better off building out more loops, just as an example, in your example, we'd be better off building more loops around the Lake Whitehall area to give people more options than necessarily trying to connect everything together across town. And again, the rationale there is that we have a pretty big town geographically, and the majority of people are not interested in going for an 8-mile run.
I definitely fall into that demographic.
So, I mean, I think that from a bicycling perspective, a little bit different, but that's also where that's kind of a separate project in identifying these bike routes and whatnot to improve it. But from a trails and sidewalks perspective, the intent, our interpretation of it is that we'd be better off investing in building more options in that 2 to 4 mile range than actually trying to connect everything.
Gotcha. Well, I really appreciate the legwork that you all put in. I think it's interesting data, and I'm interested to see how this moves forward.
All right.
Dismissed.
Thanks everyone for your time.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Will there be an elf-free zone on these bike paths? Elf-free zones?
That would...
It would have to be posted. It's discriminatory. Can't do that.
All right, next item on our agenda is the town hall display in support of Ukraine. The board will consider a visual display in the exterior of the town hall in support of the people of Ukraine. Board members, what are your thoughts on this? Amy? Commercials?
Okay, through the chair. I've heard a lot of things about this, and I see where a flag is rather inappropriate, but I was wondering if we could do yellow and blue spotlights, maybe on the gazebo, and maybe just some yellow and blue lights, like Christmas lights, in front of the town hall, in solidarity, and not touch our flag.
That would be my feeling too, that it's not a flag, but some sort of show of support for the people of Ukraine. But I would be okay with a light display of some
I mean,
kind.
we can put lights up on the gazebo, you know, just like Christmas lights, and we can, I don't know, we can do that in front of the town hall, but we could put 2 spotlights out there in 2 different colors, and or something of that nature. Other towns are showing solidarity, and I think we should do a little something.
I have seen it in other towns, yes. I've seen it in other towns too.
Yeah, and we don't need a banner, and we don't need another flag. We just need a little something to show how we feel.
Mr. Pedestrian?
Is Mr. Kamalo on?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, so I want to preface this by saying it's kind of a slam dunk, because I don't know anybody who's not in favor of showing our solidarity towards the Ukraine. But as a town and as a board, do we make political statements in town? Mr. Kamalo, is it? I feel like, and I hate to be that guy that's dropping the anchor, but you know, right now the board is amenable to this, which is certainly a socially acceptable thing. What happens if in 6 months there might be a new composition of the board and something else comes up and it's offensive? I want to see what our position is on making official political statements through the town.
Yeah, through the chair. Perhaps there are two aspects to the answer to Mr. Texton's question. One is that from a policy perspective, if the board is inclined to take this type of action, namely supporting a nation that is at war with another nation, what would the board do next if a similar issue came up? It's usually on a case-by-case basis. However, the idea then being, if the board starts doing this, it has to do it whenever that request comes up.
No.
Yes, the board does not have a policy in place to guide its decision-making. Because what the people are looking for usually is in any policy that there is consistency, there is fairness, and it's not arbitrary. Without a policy, it may be difficult for the board to do that. The second aspect to your question, Mr. Cheston, I think we need to refer to the town charter. The town charter outlines specific responsibilities for the select board. And one of those responsibilities is intergovernmental relationships. Again, how that extends, how that extends, the intergovernmental relationships with other towns, with other nations, with other continents, it's not defined in the charter. And so it's up to the board to interpret that provision in the charter. Again, in summary form, clearly, if the board is inclined to do this, it's usually much easier if there's a policy in place. Board doesn't have that. Secondly, board needs to make a decision in terms of how far it extends its responsibilities related to intergovernmental relationships.
Thank you. And again, for clarity, I am totally for this. I'm totally in support of the Ukraine, but I was just wondering the ramifications down the road, because people like to kind of take an inch, give an inch and take a mile, and they can spin this into past practice. And you did this for the Ukraine. Why won't you do it for Israel or Palestine or Turkey or Quebec or whatever it takes? But if the discretion is of the board and we are duly elected by the townspeople, to make those decisions, then I am all in favor of it.
I think that's why you want to involve our flag and that sort of thing, and I was just hoping that a few lights would do the job.
So, my comment with this, I would preface this also by saying that I fully support the Ukrainian people, and I'm all for peace. What I am worried about, or what I'm concerned about, are the unintended consequences of our actions. Similar to what Mr. Tedstone mentioned, or similar to the Cleveland Balloon Festival, where, you know, who could think that releasing a $500,000 balloons could have unintended consequences, but it did.
Yeah.
So, you know, here, I think, from a policy perspective, I'm fully in support of, you know, if there were a rally in support of Ukraine or something like that in common, but I'm reluctant to, on behalf of the town, to come forward in favor of one nation over the other. And as I said, I also consider that, you know, I'm sure we have Russian people living in Hopkinton who come here to, you know, get a good education, raise their children, and are we then ostracizing those children by taking a position on one side? I just think we need to be inclusive. I'm all for peace, and I'd be fully in support of applying the peace flag. I just don't want to be picking sides. Personally, I have chosen a side, and as Mr. Jensen said, it's a no-brainer. Everyone said this is kind of a no-brainer. But on behalf of the town, I think we have to take a step back and say, should the town take this political statement?
I guess I was thinking being in support of the Ukrainian people was different than taking the side of a government. But I mean, we could do a more neutral display about for all refugees. I mean, there are refugee crisis. This is not the only refugee crisis.
Absolutely.
And we have had the India flag for India Day. We do religious displays on the common of a variety of religions.
But those are private groups that
Those are all done privately, right?
Yeah.
Those are all private organizations wholly. And I'm happy to vote in favor of a, you know, if there is an organization in town that wants to hold a rally, I would be very, very supportive of that. And if they want to fly Ukraine's flags, as long as it's below the United States flag, I'm on board.
No, I'm not for that.
But as far as the board taking the initiative, I'm reluctant.
So we did have a citizen come to us and request to do the display, correct?
But that citizen requested us to do it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Right. If the citizen wants to organize a group to do it, and they want to come before the board for approval, I'm all for it.
Okay, so maybe that is the better path, that a group, if there's a group in town that would like to do it, they should come.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just one person saying my piece, that's where I go.
So, Mr. Kamala, do we need to vote on this?
At this point, again, it's up to the board what it wants to do. However, I'm sensing that the board is interested in having a private entity petition the board and have the petition considered at a future meeting.
Yes.
So if that's where the board is heading, then there's no need for a vote at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else, any other discussion on this?
Well, I had another thought, that maybe, I mean, the sunflowers are everywhere, and I was thinking maybe we could do a school art project or something with sunflowers and display them at HCAM, or display them on the gazebo at the common for the kids. And let them, that make a statement.
Yeah, so maybe a private group would organize something like that.
All right.
See, that's how we've done it in the past, so I think if the private group wants to organize something, and you want to make that suggestion, I think that's entirely appropriate.
So since we don't meet again for 2 weeks, it would take some, could we authorize if a private group wishes to put out a display in support of the Ukrainian people, we would allow that? Like, or you need to hear?
The problem that you run into there is what if there's a nut job on the right or the left that decides to do something, and they say, well, the board said that that I could do something like that.
Okay.
So I think
All
it should
right.
be
So
on
we
an
should wait for the
individual
next-
It
basis.
has to be on an individual basis.
I'd be okay with this, with a scheduled meeting to deal with that.
I think the war's still gonna be going on in for 2
certainly,
weeks,
yeah.
so.
I certainly hope not, but you're right.
Okay.
All right, so if we don't need to take a vote, then I think we can move forward. Move over to the next agenda item, which is the comprehensive budget. The select board will consider adopting the town manager's fiscal year 23 comprehensive budget and submitting it to the appropriations committee. The board members have any comments, questions, or proposed modifications to the town manager's budget before submitting it to appropriations?
Through the chair. I just want to make it clear, we gave a presentation to a listening budget session, seminar, and I would like to know if there have been any budget changes between that budget and the one we're presenting.
Through the chair, at this point, for now, there have not been any changes to
Okay.
the budget.
And I'm all in.
It was distributed February 18th, 2022.
Mary Jo, I missed what you just said.
Yes, and I'm all in. That's
Okay.
fine, if there's no changes.
So,
Mr. Jensen?
I'm good.
Good.
Very much.
I did just want to ask about the solar panels for the school, because I think that did change, not since, it maybe changed 2 meetings ago, that we were going to purchase them, but now we're going to lease, is that correct?
Not exactly. The initial idea was for the town to own the project and purchase them for around, I believe, $6 million. What we're doing now, what has been proposed and is being reviewed through town council, working collaboratively with the school department, is a power purchase agreement similar to the PPAs that we've signed for other projects in town.
But just generally, I think we brought this up before, but when you purchase the panels, even though it's a huge expense at the beginning, you gain more money in the long run, and especially with the high cost of energy, I think people will have questions about that. So, okay. But anyway, it's better than nothing to do the power purchase agreement.
So, do I understand the power purchase agreement is similar to leasing then? Where we're purchasing the power and letting you keep we're not getting gas rights out of it, right?
Yes, we're not getting gas rights. However, the ones that participated in this, I always negotiate on behalf of the town to get a better rate.
Yeah.
And also, in this case, we as a town are not set up to manage these kinds of facilities. And therefore, we're putting that responsibility on somebody else.
So they'll take care of the maintenance, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Any questions on the comprehensive budget? No. All right, well, hearing nothing, I'm going to request a motion to adopt town manager's fiscal year 23 comprehensive budget and to submit the budget to the appropriations committee.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, take the roll call vote. Amy Rittenbush?
Rittenbush, yes.
Ernie Headstone?
Headstone, yes.
Mary Jo Lefreniere?
Mary Jo Lefreniere, yes.
Mayor Panushvili is a yes as well. Next item on our agenda is the 2022 annual town meeting warrant and articles. The board has received the first draft of the annual town meeting warrant and will continue to review the articles. Board members, you have the packet, and we've seen that we have a few articles here. Does anybody have anything that you would like to discuss or comment? We have standing with PEG access and cable-related fund accounts for HCAM, unauthorized and unissued debt rescindment, pertaining to the creation of the school education Special Education Reserve Fund, for the Lake Maspinock Dam area repair work, funding for the Fair Farmhouse, the ADA Commission, investment legislation, tax increase, increment financing agreement with Mike and Bioscience, and we have a pilot program for Wilson Street Solar Farms. Does anybody have anything more about it?
I had a couple questions. So first, I see at the beginning of the warrant, I know you guys probably know this, but you need to add 2 more school committee seats on there, I think at the beginning, right? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about the funding for the Terry Farmhouse. What, is that just an overage, like did it cost more to repair than we thought? Or?
Yeah, if I may through the chair, as you know, the Terry Farmhouse is owned by the town. The Hopkinton Center for the Arts are our worthwhile tenant doing excellent work for the community. We also know that in the past years, the town has identified, working collaboratively with the ACA, structural issues that need to be addressed. And one of the issues that we've been looking at most recently has to do with ADA access. I believe we were before the board sometime last year talking about a ramp that we insisted on, and the FCA agreed to include as part of its current project. Why we have this placeholder is that I'm currently in conversations with the FCA to better understand what the scope of responsibility might be for the town in helping move forward the current project. The current project entails ADA repairs outside the building and inside the building. We're talking to see how we can work in supporting the FCA in addressing those 2 aspects of the current project. We don't have a specific project right now that will be included at town meeting. I just simply included this language should town council say that whatever we want to do with the FCA would require town meeting approval.
Okay. And then the ADA Commission, I think that's a good idea to revive that. It looked like it would be 5 members appointed by the select board, and I assume that's how other towns do it. I didn't see provisions for, if someone that actually had disabilities would need to be on the commission, and I wondered if that was something we should have.
Yeah, we're talking about that aspect. Thank you for raising that issue. Absolutely. We want this charge to include very strong provisions that send a stronger message regarding our willingness to see individuals from this population actively participate as full members of the community.
Okay. And then, have we heard about the Wilson Street Solar Farm before? I guess I might like an introduction on that, too. The pilot agreement.
Yes, this is an emerging issue. Recently came to our attention that the developer of the solar farm on Wilson Street might be looking at a pilot agreement between the entity and the town. They are also taking advantage of recent legislative changes, and I think that's why this issue is coming before the town and the board at this moment.
Okay.
We'll be able to get more information on exactly what it is
As we get closer, yeah.
Yes, in fact, I should share with the board that internally we had our strategy session a week ago last week. We had a sense as to what issues we're going to put forth to the developer, and depending on whether there's an agreement or no agreement, this issue moves forward.
Great. Remember anything else?
Yeah, through the chair.
Very good.
I was looking at the articles having to do with HCAM, and we're going to remove them from one, and we're putting them into a 53F and a fraction account. But it's under Chapter 90. I mean, Chapter 90 was always highway funds, and I don't know how we can take an HCAM article out of highway funds.
That's a typo.
Can you explain it to me? It's new to me.
Typo?
It's a typo, okay.
She said
It's a typo.
It's a typo. So it's not out of Chapter 90 funds.
But good catch.
Okay, well, that takes care of that.
I have it on my list of corrections.
That takes care of that. Thank you very much. I was a little
Joe, that catch
confused.
was clearly outstanding. Good.
All right.
Are there any ballot questions this year? Would that, or we don't know yet?
We don't know yet, that might depend on the budget process.
Okay.
But clearly, based on the town manager and community budget, there are items that we believe may end up as ballot questions.
Okay.
And that'll get flushed out in the coming weeks?
Correct.
All right. Board members all set?
Yep.
Yep.
All set?
All right. We will then move to our next agenda item, the COVID-19 update. Sean McCullough, our health director, will provide the board with an update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is Sean here? There he is. Sean, take it away.
Good evening, through the chair. So our metrics are improving. We had a slight increase in our positivity rate last week, from the second week of March to this week. So what we're seeing is that we're fluctuating, but the general trend is that we're improving. For those that are following the state metrics, we're just asking people to remember that those don't include any home tests. So what we've devised is we're working with the school department, so any COVID cases that are reported to the school nurses, those get forwarded to us, and we're back contact tracing and following up with and providing case management with all of those cases. That all said, we're improving. We believe that through the amount of, or the number of people that contracted Omicron, the high vaccination rates, and just our willingness to practice good public health policy, we're doing well as a community. We anticipate that we will continue to do well. As of March 1st, the state's reporting that we've had 20 cases, but through our work with the school, we've realized that there have been 46 cases as of yesterday. Again, something that Simone continues to remind us is that our outcomes have been good. We haven't had any illness, or like severe illness or death in the months of February or March. The State Health Department released mortality data to us. This is the first time since Friday. Friday was the first day that this was made available to local health. On Friday, they reported 30 COVID deaths for the town of Hopkinton. On Monday, they revised that number down to 22. And then today, we were in discussions with the State Health Department where we're trying to verify the accuracy of that revision. But at the end of the day,
Can I clarify, that's from the beginning of the pandemic?
that's from the beginning of the
Okay.
pandemic. It's worth noting that we had 3 deaths in the month of January, but as I said, with COVID being, with Omicron being the predominant variant, and it being what they refer to as the BA.1.1 variant, that's the less severe variant. So we are seeing no more than like flu-like symptoms. Kids are having fever. Actually, I guess kids and adults are experiencing fevers, but it's all manageable. We're just asking people to continue to exercise caution when in large gatherings. Those that have compromised immune systems should continue to have face coverings with them so that they can don them when necessary. And the department is using some of the grant money that we've just received from the Metro West Health Foundation to purchase additional face coverings for the school department, for the food pantry, senior center, library. We're giving another group of face coverings to the DPW, and then we'll have face coverings for public safety moving forward. So we think we'll have everybody equipped well. The schools will have properly fitting extra small and smalls, and then we have extra grant monies to cover future costs. We've received a number of calls from concerned residents about the lack of contact tracing in the schools, but what we've done is, as I said, we're working with the department to track all the cases that are reported to them. But more importantly, what we're doing is we're pushing the DPH and DESE to formulate a reporting process for the school department, because right now they basically left every school district in the Commonwealth to make up their own new reporting procedures, and the group of health directors in this area feel that that's a poor decision. So we're encouraging them to rethink and redevelop a policy so that all of the districts across the Commonwealth are following the same reporting policy, and we want to make sure that our teachers, our parents, and the district as a whole are as well informed as possible. And other than that, I mean, that's about it for COVID. I mean, I'm pleased to say that Simone and I we're working on age and dementia-friendly partnerships with the school, with the senior center and the fire department, and we're moving on to, partnering with youth and families on other issues. So if everybody just continues, following the rules and exercising good judgment.
It's still cool to wash your hands.
It is.
Oh.
And then it's, we've started seeing cases of norovirus. We started seeing cases of other illnesses.
Norovirus.
Oh, other viruses. Like stomach bugs, yeah.
Just because we're out of COVID, just people need to be aware that there's other stuff out there. And there's a lot of talk about the BA2 variant, or the stealth Omicron variant. We've had, I think, 4 cases in Hopkinton that I can see through my reports, and those are all travel related. It's traveling out of the country or college kids returning home. So, it's just exercising caution when you're traveling. Otherwise, I think we're well funded. We're set up as soon as the DPH, CDC figure out what they want to do with boosters for 5 and 11, and then vaccinations for kids under 5. We're ready. We're just waiting for the guidance. We have I think we have close to $25,000 set up just to cover any supplies or anything that we might need to help get us through that vaccination process. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, as always.
And you
I look
were
forward
under
to
budget on your
I
time.
appreciate it.
It should be noted, he was under budget on his time.
Okay, it's not a question, just a comment, but, yeah, I was just going to say, I really do appreciate that the schools will start having standard policies, because I see the district that I work in provides much more detail than the town of the school, Hopkinton schools, so it would be nice to have it standardized, but I don't, you don't need to answer, but.
At the end of the day, we are committed to providing the residents the best care and communication that we can. So where there are processes lacking, guidance lacking, like with the school department, we're trying to figure out how we can bridge that gap and provide the residents the information they need. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on. Town manager report. Mr. Kamali.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I'm requesting the board's authorization to sign a retainer agreement between the town and the law firm of Nathalie Sholnicki, PLLC. if the board is inclined to support this request, Napoli Skolnicki will now be the law firm representing the town in seeking recoveries for the town relative to PFAS. And there are 3 reasons why I'm recommending that the board support this request. Number 1, town council and town staff have reviewed the work of this particular law firm, and we believe that they do have the institutional capacity to work on this new and emerging issue. And then secondly, the town has used this retainer form of agreement in the past successfully in cases where recovery was involved. And then last but not least, the town is not on the hook. The town, in other words, the town will not be paying anything unless there is successful recovery.
Okay. Good?
What about upfront costs for studies and trying to find them? So I'm assuming that this law firm is going to be trying to find the original polluter, to tag them and seek recovery from them. Is there going to be geological studies and things that they need to prove in order to find the polluters? And will we be on the hook for those costs?
Interesting enough, without getting into the strategy part, the focus is going to be on the manufacturers.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What was that?
Focus is going to be on the manufacturers.
The manufacturers, okay. Yep.
All right.
Okay, well.
Board members, any questions?
I think that was just my question too. Would there be an investigation, or what? How do we figure out who's responsible? Okay.
So, just so good, town pays nothing unless there's a recovery. Yeah. There's no investigative costs, studies, expert that we have to pay for.
They must know who it is.
Yeah, tied to the investigation, no, except that we are doing our own design work towards an interim and temporary solution.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in that case, I'm going to request a motion to enter into and authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the town a proposed retainer agreement with law firm Napoli PLLC for evaluation, advice, and prosecution of all available legal claims against any and all parties, individuals, and/or corporations that may be liable under the law for injuries and/or property damages suffered by the town arising out of contamination of water supplies by polychloroalkyl substances or PFAS and 1,4-dioxane and other similar substances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, take a roll call vote. Andy Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Bernadette Dunn?
Fred Stone, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere?
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
And their Conda School is a yes as well. Anything else for the town manager's report? You're muted.
Yeah, for now, I'll say thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Waddle. Liaison reports. Anybody have anything?
Nothing from me.
I just happened to be talking to Joe Pratt from, on the, not Joe, Tommy. Shows you
You a psychic?
Yeah. And he said everything's working well since they have their new member.
Oh, great.
All right, future board agenda items. Anyone have anything?
We are going to have the permanent building committee come, right, to show us about Center School. Is that right?
Yes, we're waiting on that.
Coming up. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
That's the only one.
Great. All right, Amy, take it away.
All right, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, motion been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Amy Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Bernadette Dunn?
Oh, yes on me.
Mary Jo Lafreniere?
Mary Jo Lafreniere, that's a yes.
And Dr. School is a yes as well. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank-
Tina picked